one of the things that I've concentrated on over the last few years, getting to be Medicare age myself, is Medicare itself. We're actually filming today because I hope to make a YouTube video about this kind of an easy to understand Medicare 101 course. As everybody here knows, you know, when you turn 65, well, not everybody, sorry. As many of you know, when you turn 65, you're inundated with paperwork and advertisements and people calling your house and, you know, do this, do that, and there's a lot of misinformation on there. And I believe, after so many years in the business, that the misinformation causes people harm. So I'd like to set the record straight on a few things. So to begin with, there are a lot of myths in Medicare that are perpetuated by massive amount of advertising on the TV. The first and biggest myth is that you have to wait until October 15th, until the open enrollment period, to change Medicare supplement plans, and that's actually false. You can change Medicare supplement plans anytime. Okay, first big myth shot down. Another big myth is that you have to choose, is that you can't change your prescription drug plan but once a year during open enrollment period, and that's also false. Medicare prescription drug coverage, which is Part D, can be changed anytime during the year if you go to a 5-star plan. The government rates all of the prescription drug plans by the number of, you know, they use a 5-star system, 5 being the best. And there's a bunch of statistics that go into that rating, like outreach and cost and availability and so on and so forth. And we do have a 5-star plan in Connecticut. Most people just get the cheapest thing you can get, but what happens if halfway through the year you have to take a prescription drug that you know, and you have a $400 deductible? I mean, don't feel like you're left out in the cold and have to come up with the money, because you can change plans in the middle of a year. The next thing I really wanted to point out was that something that a lot of people don't know, and we've tried to outline everything, is all of the things on this page are screenings that are also paid for by Medicare. You can get screened for this stuff anytime. They have rules, of course, how many times you can be screened for certain things. Okay, probably we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of Medicare right now. To understand the Medicare system, you only have to understand two things: parts and plans. Parts and plans. Parts are Medicare things. Part A, which is hospitalization. Part B, which is the doctors and diagnostic exams. Part C is Medicare Advantage. We're going to talk a little bit about Medicare Advantage. And Part D is prescription drug plans. Now, all of those parts are brought to you by the federal government. Plans, on the other hand, integrate with the parts to pay some of the things that Medicare doesn't pay for. So let's talk about the Part A. Medicare, we're going to stay with parts for a few minutes, and then we're going to go on to plans. So Medicare Part A pays for your hospitalization. And there's a limit to it. It's like the first 60 days, and then the next 30 days, and so on and so forth. But right up front, the very first thing that happens is that you have to pay a $1,340 deductible if you go into the hospital. Part B pays for everything else that the hospital doesn't pay for. Pretty easy way to sum it up. But Part B has a $183 deductible. And after, per year, per person per year. And After the deductible, Medicare Part B, which you know you have to pay for, Medicare Part B pays 80% of the claim. And that might sound great, but if you have $60,000 in chemotherapy, that's a $12,000 out-of-pocket exposure. So because of that, we wrap these parts with plans to limit our exposure to our financial exposure. And the reason I summed that up is because we're going to move on to Part C and going to spend a minute on it. Part C is Medicare Advantage. If you have a Part C plan, the government has actually taken you off of traditional Medicare. They take that money that they would have spent on you and they send it to an insurance company. And now the insurance company has to manage your care. And we all know that insurance companies are in the business to make a profit. So now you have to deal with what we call managed care. They manage your care. So you might not get the MRI. You might have only 2 days in the hospital for that illness. Managed care is a broad spectrum of things that they've developed to control costs. Okay? Traditional Medicare doesn't have managed care. There's a part of the advertising that really irks me, and I just wanted to point it out to you. And when they say that it's free, because a lot of Medicare Advantage plans, like through AARP or Connecticut and even Blue Cross, it's free, right, until you get the bill. Most Medicare Advantage plans have a $6,700 out-of-pocket exposure. And if you're on a limited income and you have to come up, if you've been hospitalized a couple of times in a year, and you have to come up with $6,000 or $7,000, it could hurt. Medicare Advantage has its place. If you're on Medicaid, Medicare Advantage plans actually, I think, serve the community well in some areas because of all the extras. If you're on Medicaid, the government is going to pay that $6,700. Sometimes they're going to pay your $183 deductible or that $1,300 hospital copay. Those things are all now going to be paid, and you'll have very little, if you're on Medicaid, you'll have very little out-of-pocket expense. Plus, they add things to the Medicare Advantage plan, like dental and vision and prescription. But I think it's unfair the way it's marketed, because people, when you get a big bill and you're surprised, I don't think it's fair. And now we're going to move on to Part D. Part D is the drug plan. D for drugs, right? It just worked out that way. They didn't plan it that way, believe me. Under Part D, the way we work with a Part D plan is we get a list of your prescriptions. And I need the correct spelling and the dosage. But we get the list of your prescriptions, and we go onto the website, medicare.gov, and we program everything in, and it spits out a report to us that says there's 26 plans that you qualify for, and it tells you with this list of drugs exactly what it's going to cost you this year for your drug copays and your deductibles and your premiums. So that's something that you should all be doing every year, is looking at your drug plan. Now let's move on to the plans. We've got basically 3 plans that I want to tell you about today. We have Plan F, the most popular plan in America. We've got an F high deductible, the cheapest plan in America. And we've got a Plan N. It's that wonderful middle-of-the-road plan that covers most of the things you want covered with very little exposure. So there's 3 things you have to pay for. We've already talked about this under parts. You have to pay that $1,340 deductible for hospital. You have to pay the $183 deductible for Part B, which is everything else. And you have to pay 20% of the balance after there. Plan F pays everything. Pays the deductible for hospital, the deductible for doctors, and it pays the 20% after the deductible. It's also the most expensive plan. On the back of the handout that I gave you, there's actually a list. There it is. The back of the prescription drug handout. There's actually a list of every company, every plan that's licensed to be sold in Connecticut, and the price they could charge for every single plan. It's all on here on one page. Okay? Our biggest insurance company, Anthem Blue Cross, ranks about the cheapest in most of the categories, and we're a big Blue Cross provider for them. So Plan F pays for everything. So basically you pay $260 or $250 a month, and you really don't have any exposure to anything else. Any Medicare approved charge under a Plan F will be paid at 100%. Yeah. So let's go on to a Plan F high deductible. The Plan F high deductible, it doesn't pay for any of those things, the $1,340 Part A deductible, the $183 Part B, and the 20%. It doesn't pay for any of those things until $2,200 comes out of your pocket. Now, if you've got a few bucks in the bank, this is the plan for you, and if you're fairly healthy. Because a Medicare Plan F high deductible is just $58 a month. So if you're pretty healthy, you're going to save $200 a month on the premium. And that's $2,400 a year. But you're only going to be exposed to $2,200 of claims. So if you're healthy, you win. You keep that $2,200, $2,400. You keep it in your pocket. That's why I love the F high deductible. Now the Plan N is interesting because it's like a hybrid. It's like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. The Plan N, you pay the $183 Part B deductible. You pay $20 for a doctor visit, $50 for an emergency room visit, and that's it. That's your only exposure. And it's $150 a month. So it's middle of the road. You're not exposed to a big, $2,000 out of pocket, and you only have to pay $20 doctor visits after your deductible. I think it's a great alternative, a great midway point for those plans. Okay, what we do. We assess your current and possible future medical and financial situation. Do we think a high deductible is right for you? Do we think that you really should be on a Part C Medicare Advantage plan? We can help you come to those conclusions. We look at your prescription drug list. We assess your total and monthly copay cost to select the best of the 26 available drug plans in Connecticut. And we service your policy and answer questions as they arise. And we also do billing disputes. So we kind of back up your plan. We're an office that will answer your phone call within a couple of minutes instead of a couple of hours. And if anybody has tried to call their insurance company, there's an hour wait typically for that. So it's a valuable service that we offer. Thank you very much, everybody.